Welcome to the Kaweah Water Foundation Safe Drinking Water Part 1, Understanding Your Drinking Water Nitrates in the Kaweah Area. So the purpose of today's workshop is to engage with local communities and residents to help build capacity related to water contamination within the Kaweah Water Foundation service area. To the right, you can see a map of the service area within the Kaweah Water Foundation. It is in northern Tulare County, extending from west of 99 over towards Waukena, but does not include Corcoran. To the south, just south of Tulare, but north of Plainview, and along the east side along the foothills. The northern boundary is north of Visalia and Ivanhoe, and extends to about Highway 201. Today's workshop is identical to another workshop that we hosted on January 7th. We want to thank you for joining us today. We have planned 2 other workshops. One is intended to work directly with users of community water systems, and that is January 19th. We also have another workshop scheduled for January 31st, intended to work and understand concerns of domestic well users. I'm now on slide 3. Today's part 1 workshop is happening in both English and in Spanish, with options to join by Zoom or toll-free. Presentation is over. The question and answers will be connected between both workshops. If anyone's having technical difficulties or needs bilingual assistance, you can call 559-325-4463. Also, if you would like to join the Spanish meeting, you can go to water.org/outreach for the link for that Zoom. Okay. So I am Sarah Rutherford. I'm serving as the Interim Executive Director for the Kaweah Water Foundation. Again, thank you for joining us this morning. We're also joined by Malka Kopel, who is our facilitator today. Also on the screen, you can see Sarah Lee. She is the project manager for the Early Action Plan, and our host is Trilby Barton. So Malka will describe how to use the Zoom screen and function.
Thank you, Sarah. Hi, I'm Malka Kopel from Cal State Sacramento, adding my welcome to Sarah's. As Sarah said, we are holding 2 meetings at the same time, one in English and one in Spanish and English. So I just wanted to let you know that. And as Sarah said, if people need to join the Spanish language meeting, please do. We're doing that so that we can accommodate broader language access to the information that we're providing. And we also want to accommodate the questions and comments in both languages. So you might see us checking in occasionally with the other meeting to make sure we're on the same track. Please bear with us. People are invited to access these meetings in a variety of ways. Some people are accessing via the computer, and people are also able to access by phone, although at this time in this meeting, we have 7 people who are all on computer, including the technical team. I've asked people to introduce themselves by typing your name and affiliation into the chat. So everyone should be able to see that. Welcome Jonathan Nelson with the Community Water Center, Donald Icamilla with the Kaweah Basin Water Quality Association, and Blanca Escobedo with Leadership Council. If you are all able to unmute yourselves, so if you have any technical difficulties or urgent questions, please feel free to ask them. And you are also able to contact us via the chat. If you know someone who's trying to join the meeting but having difficulty, as Sarah said, please have them call the bilingual technical assistance line, 559-325-4463. Okay, back to Sarah.
Okay, thank you, Malka. I'm now on slide 5, how to make your voice heard. This slide we will share several times, but I want to carefully talk through all of the information on this slide. So as I described earlier, we do have 2 more workshops planned. The Public Water System workshop scheduled for Tuesday, January 19th, starting at 5 and potentially ending before 7. We also have a private domestic well workshop scheduled for Sunday, January 31st, beginning at 2 and ending before 4 p.m. So to stay informed and to be able to share your thoughts and communicate with the Kaweah Water Foundation, we've set up several lines of communication. We've set up a direct email, which is admin, ADMIN, at kaweahwater.org. You can also call us at 559-325-4463, and you can leave a voicemail. It can be anonymous if you'd like. It will be transcribed in either English or Spanish, and we will respond to those in future meetings. You can also write a letter addressed to the foundation. Our physical address is 130 North Garden Street in Visalia, 93291. We've also set up social media for Facebook and Instagram at Kaweah Water Foundation on Instagram, and similarly on Facebook, Kaweah Water Foundation. We'll be sharing updates and future meeting information, but you can also message us via social media to give us your thoughts, comments, and feedback. We also have a website where you can find updates on meetings and progress on the early action plan and another plan called the Preliminary Management Zone Proposal. Our website is kaweahwater.org. At the same website, you can also click on the Contact tab to sign up for email updates to be part of our listserv. So I'm now on slide 6, and Malka will walk through our introduction and workshop agenda.
Thank you, Sarah. So we're going to begin with a presentation, Understanding Your Drinking Water. The presentation will pause at certain points to make sure that we have that you have an opportunity to ask questions during the presentation or make comments, particularly clarifying questions. What we'd like to do, because we have 2 meetings, is we'd like to gather any of the substantive questions and answer all of those after the break. So your question will be either answered immediately or after the break so that everybody can hear the answers. But just feel free to ask when we get a chance to pause. And when we pause, what I'm going to do is I will call on people on the phone first, although in this meeting we don't have anyone on the phone yet. And then I will call on you who are accessing this meeting by video. You have 2 options. You can use the chat to ask written questions with those of you accessing by computer, or you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. You can raise your hand just by waving if your camera's on, or you can use the raise hand option in the participant screen. And then I'll check with folks on the phone again if we have anyone on the phone. We will also, after the presentation, we will have another opportunity to ask questions, and then we'll take a short break and come back to you with responses to questions, as I said, from both the meetings. We'll use the break to compile the questions. After we respond to the questions, you'll have a chance to ask more questions. And then at the end of the meeting, we can have some more informal time just back and forth to discuss, to ask more questions, to ask follow-up questions, etc. It's important for us that you have a chance to ask the questions that you want to ask and to make comments. So if you feel impeded in any way, just let us know. We want to make it easy for you. We'll start with the presentation.
Thank you, Malka. So I'll be presenting all 5 sections this morning, and we'll begin with where does my drinking water come from? So tap water within the Kaweah service area is provided to homes either through a public water system, for example, a city like City of Tulare or Visalia, or a private domestic well. Tap water must meet federal and state drinking water standards to be considered safe to drink. And not all wells or public water systems meet these standards within the Kaweah Water Foundation service area. Approximately 90% of Tulare County's drinking water comes from groundwater. I'm now on slide 10, and this is a graphic depicting what is groundwater, beginning with the land surface, what is known as an unsaturated zone, and then a water table and groundwater. In short, groundwater is water that's contained between soil particles beneath the land surface. I'm now on slide 11. There's a graphic depicting the water cycle, which I'll describe first and then describe the graphic. So precipitation falls from clouds to the land surface and then into, I need to move this just a little, and then infiltrates into groundwater and surface water storage such as lakes or streams, where it either evaporates or condenses again into clouds and then repeats the water cycle. Any water that flows across the ground surface, for example, rain or snow or irrigation water, can seep into little tiny spaces between soil particles to create groundwater. So in this graphic, we see a series of arrows which creates a cycle between evaporation from the sun condensing into water vapor, then becoming rain or snow, which is precipitation to the surface, which then sinks into the ground and becomes part of the water table. I'm now on slide 12, which is a similar graphic. Groundwater accumulates over long periods of time to create storage beneath the surface, which is called an aquifer. I'm now on slide 13. How is groundwater used for drinking water? Groundwater is pumped to the surface for our use using wells. The quality of groundwater can be different depending on the location and depth of the well. So typically domestic wells are drilled shallower than community wells or ag wells, which are typically drilled deeper. In this graphic is an illustration of how a well is constructed. There is a well casing which goes into the soil profile until it reaches the groundwater aquifer. All wells have a pump of some kind, as well as a well screen. There's an electrical component, which is how the pump operates, and a pressure tank, which maintains pressure so that water can be moved to the surface. This is another graphic of what I also just described. It's a little more simple. I'm on slide 14. So again, power and a pressure tank at the surface level. There's a well cap, which prevents contaminants or debris like leaves or small insects, animals, etc., from getting into the well. There's a steel or PVC casing, which again goes into the soil profile, and a well screen at the bottom to help filter out sand and other dirt. I'm now on slide 15. How does a well provide drinking water? So essentially, a well is a hole that's drilled into the ground and it's held open by a pipe, as I just described in the well casing. A pump that's attached to the well acts a lot like a straw to draw water to the surface. Wells are also drilled at different depths depending on how deep the aquifer is. Wells also have screens, as I mentioned, to prevent sand, soil from entering the well, and well caps that prevent trash, insects, or animals from getting into the well. So that's the end of part 1. I can pause briefly for any questions regarding part 1. So we've now described how groundwater can be used for drinking water. We'll now describe groundwater quality, which is important when used as a drinking water source. So beginning with chemicals, all living, non-living things are made up of chemicals. There are natural and human-made chemicals, and depending on how much of a chemical or a concentration of a chemical, water may be safe for human consumption, but some are not. So examples of chemicals include fertilizer, gasoline, pesticides, even baking powder or artificial sweetener. Now on slide 18, what are minerals? There's a picture of different raw minerals found in nature. So minerals are inorganic, so they're not made by plants or humans or animals. They occur naturally in a solid form, but they can be dissolved by water and can be found within water. Examples of some minerals include salts, calcium, magnesium, iron. Other minerals are diamonds and gold, which typically are never found in water, but those are also minerals. So now on slide 19, how do chemicals end up in soil and in groundwater? So some chemicals and minerals can be found naturally in the soil, but also septic systems, cities, animals, industrial operations, agriculture, other human activities can allow chemicals to enter into the soil. Chemicals in the soil can make their way into groundwater and can become more concentrated or found in larger amounts over time. And so in this graphic on the left, you can see a number of human uses, including a home with a septic system, which can release contaminants into the aquifer. An urban area like a city with a really deep well can also have impacts to an aquifer. Agriculture and animal operations as well. And then other industrial storage tanks, typically associated with petroleum products. So now on slide 20. So what is in groundwater? So beginning when water hits the surface and moves into the soil and moving through the land surface into the water table, the soil that it's moving through also contains minerals and chemicals from both natural and human sources. So multiple layers of soil can filter out trash and bacteria and insects. And as water flows through the soil, it can also move with it chemicals and minerals into the groundwater aquifer. So now on slide 21, so can these chemicals or minerals found in groundwater be harmful? And the answer is that minerals and chemicals are not all bad or all good. Some are important for survival, but also some can be harmful to human health. So different amounts or concentrations of a chemical or mineral in water can also change the water's color or smell, or how safe it is to drink, or also what's known as hardness, which is the white mineral deposits you might see on a shower head, for example. So in the picture below, you can see different shades of water, illustrating that concentrations can vary from very little to a lot in the darkest beaker there. So now on slide 22. So chemicals with potential health impacts in some local drinking water supplies include this list here and are illustrated in some of the pictures to the left. So chemicals found within the Kaweah service area groundwater supplies include nitrate, also includes perchlorate 1,2,3-trichloropropane, which is also called TCP. There is 1,2-dibromo-3-chloropropane, also known as DBCP. Arsenic is a naturally occurring contaminant, and hexavalent chromium, which is not, and then trichloroethylene, also known as PCE. The Kaweah Water Foundation program is focused solely on nitrates found in groundwater. So we'll pause here for any clarifications, thoughts, comments, or questions regarding chemicals and minerals found within the Kaweah Water Foundation service area. We were just talking through how groundwater, what a groundwater aquifer is, and other chemicals or that can be found in groundwater locally. So we're now beginning to focus on nitrate, which is part 3 of 5. And I'll be describing the slides as we go along. If you have the slides printed out, we are on slide 25. What is nitrate? And so nitrate is a chemical composed of both nitrogen and oxygen, and it can be produced both naturally from lightning or also directly by humans and animals as waste products. Nitrate is a special form of nitrogen that plants need to grow. So we're now on slide 27, which illustrates sources of nitrate found in groundwater. These include agricultural sources, nitrogen-based fertilizers, which can also be used on homes and yards. There's also natural atmospheric from lightning, sewage or septic waste, and animal manure can all allow nitrate to enter into the groundwater aquifer. So we're now on slide 28. Nitrate in groundwater. So the safe drinking water level for nitrate is less than 10 milligrams per liter, which is a measurement of concentration. Some local wells have nitrate concentration above the 10 milligrams per liter. On slide 29, water that is above 10 milligrams per liter of nitrate should not be used for drinking, making formula, or cooking. Water that is high in nitrate can be safely used to bathe, clean, do laundry, wash dishes, and grow crops. On slide 30, the possible health impacts of nitrate. Nitrate.
Excuse me, Sarah. Can I ask those of you who are participants to mute yourselves, please? That will reduce background noise so we can all hear the presenter. Thank you.
Thanks, Malka. So the possible health impacts of nitrate. Nitrate interferes with your body's ability and the blood to carry oxygen and can cause nitrate poisoning called methanoglioma, which is really hard to say, so we usually refer to it as blue baby syndrome. These symptoms can develop quickly in infants and include shortness of breath, blueness of the skin, and if untreated, may be fatal. On slide 31, additional health impacts. Medical attention should be sought immediately if these symptoms occur. Children under 6 months old and pregnant women are most at risk and vulnerable. That's the end of part 3. We can pause again briefly.
Any questions at this time?
I'll continue on, is my water safe to drink? And so I used this word a little bit earlier, but want to be clear on what is a contaminant. And when we talk about drinking water, the word contaminant is used to describe something that makes the water unsafe or undesirable, such as a smell, undesirable to drink. So now on slide 34, describing types of drinking water contaminants. There are three general types of contaminants that can make water unsafe. There's biological, such as bacteria, viruses, or parasites. You may have heard of E. coli. There's also minerals, iron, calcium, and arsenic. And there's chemicals, and these include pesticides, such as 1,2,3-TCP or DBCP. And there's illustrations of these items below. On slide 35, contaminants and drinking water safety. So in some cases, small amounts of some contaminants are not harmful to human health. In groundwater, the soil can act as a natural filter to remove the biological contaminants. The risk of negative health effects is higher when concentrations of a contaminant of water are also higher. And water with contaminant concentrations, so the amount of a contaminant over the volume of water above what is called a maximum contaminant level, or an MCL, is not safe to drink. So more information on an MCL, or maximum contaminant level. In drinking water, an MCL is set to be protective of human health. And these standards are set by both state and federal governments. MCLs are set at a different level for each contaminant. And the concentration of a contaminant is described as a number, typically as milligrams per liter. So for nitrate, our focus here today, the MCL, or maximum contaminant level for safe drinking water, is 10 milligrams per liter. So we're now on slide 37. Is my drinking water from a public water system safe to drink? So how do you know if your water is coming to you from a public water system? If you live within city limits or your landlord pays a water bill, you are connected to a public water system. To find the name of your public water system, you can look on your water bill or you can ask your landlord or landowner. Public water systems have legal requirements to test for a variety of contaminants to treat that water to meet required standards. They also must notify users of any exceedance of a maximum contaminant level, and this notice is mailed to homeowners at least once a year. But if you're renting and you aren't paying the water bill, this notice may go to your landlord. Public water systems are also required to publish an annual consumer confidence report. And you can find this either posted locally often, or you can look for it on the internet if you look for the name of your public water system and the words consumer confidence report. Cal Water also publishes these to their website if you have a public water system associated with Cal Water. So we're now on slide 38. I'd like to talk about domestic well water safety now. So domestic wells, which are not part of a public water system, are not legally required to test or treat drinking water. And the only way to really know if your water is safe is to have your water tested in a laboratory. How do you know if you have a well? Well, if you're a renter, you can ask your landlord, or you can look around your property for a wellhead and a pump, and there's some examples in the photographs below. So how to test your domestic well? A qualified laboratory could come out and sample your well for you. There is a list of qualified laboratories on the Kaweah Water Foundation website, and this is updated by the Tulare County Public Health Department. The Kaweah Water Foundation is focused on nitrate-related issues, but it is important to consider testing your well for other contaminants. You can also collect a sample yourself and ask a local lab for specific instructions on how to do that. As mentioned, the Tulare County Health Department makes these lists available on both our website and their own. And coming soon, later this year, the Kaweah Water Foundation will offer a free domestic well testing program. So that is the end of part 4. We can pause again if anybody has clarifying questions or would like more information.
We have a question from Jonathan Nelson. Can you clarify for participants when the domestic well testing will be available?
Thanks, Jonathan. Yes, we are working on the details of that program now. There are several ways which that program might work out. One is working with some funding available through the state. Our plan within the Kaweah Water Foundation is to have that made available in June of this year.
Do you have a question?
Yes, the question I have is there any direction that the research is doing to get rid of nitrates that the domestic well user can manage?
Yeah, that's a great question, George. If you don't mind, I'd like to include that at the end when we have both Spanish and English joined together.
Well, I listen in English only.
I appreciate that. Yeah, we have a Spanish meeting hosted at the same time, and we want to make sure that everybody is getting both sets of information. And I think that question would be valuable to both meetings. So we will have a short break here in a few minutes where we can address, we'll group these questions together, and from there we will then present them back to both meetings so that everybody has the same experience.
Great.
Thanks, George. Okay, so we are now on part 5, drinking water solutions for drinking water with high nitrates. So again, if you find that your water is high in nitrate after you look at consumer confidence,
Reminder to remute yourself, George, *6. Thank you.
Okay. So again, if you see in your consumer confidence report that your water system has high nitrates, or if you have results from the laboratory that your domestic well is high in nitrates, do not drink or cook with your water. That is not safe. And do not use your water to make baby formula, also unsafe. Do not boil your water. It does not remove nitrates. And do not use a store-bought counter pitcher. It does not remove nitrates. It is safe to bathe, do laundry, wash your hands, clean, and wash dishes with water that is high in nitrates. So we're now on slide 42. And we will discuss these options and more information regarding short-term drinking water solutions in the upcoming workshops. So short-term drinking water solutions include using bottled water in your home for both drinking and cooking. Depending on the lab results for how much nitrate, or if you have other contaminants in your water, a reverse osmosis system installed underneath the sink may be a good choice for your family. There are also free drinking water kiosks available for immediate needs to fill your own bottled water. So I'm now on slide 43 with a little more information about the kiosks that are available now. There's a map for the Okieville location, which is at Road 48 and Avenue 229. There's also a Farmersville kiosk, which is located just south of Highway 198 at the Farmersville Boulevard exit. It is next to the Kaweah, oh, too many Kaweahs, the Kaweah Water Conservation District. There we go. So the free drinking water kiosks, they're open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's no signups or paperwork required. You do need to bring your own disinfected bottles, but the amount of water that you take is not limited. And again, those are available now as we develop these other drinking water solutions for bottled water, reverse osmosis, and as we are engaging with local communities. So I'm now on slide 44. So future actions and solutions. So as mentioned, the Kaweah Water Foundation is focused on nitrate contamination and is preparing an early action plan to develop drinking water solutions for residents whose water is above the nitrate MCL. So this early action plan is still in progress. We plan to have a draft available for review in mid-February, and we'll be continuing to work with local residents, interested parties, and impacted users as we work through these short and long-term solutions. So to keep informed about the progress for this early action plan and future drinking water solutions, you can go to the sources I mentioned earlier, but I'll describe them again. You can follow the Kaweah Water Foundation on social media, both Facebook and Instagram at Kaweah Water Foundation. You can also visit the website at kaweahwater.org, where we'll post information on meetings and updates to the early action plan. You can also sign up for the email list at kaweahwater.org. Or you can also give us a phone call to discuss your thoughts and input at 559-325-4463. So I'm now on slide 45. It's very important to us that we're able to have a dialogue and interaction with impacted users within the Kaweah Water Service Area. Given the COVID restrictions currently in place, our preferred method of sitting down in a room together and talking is not very safe right now. And so we are continuing to try and make other lines of communication available. So we do have a public water systems workshop planned for this coming Tuesday, January 19th, beginning at 5 o'clock. A domestic well water workshop, I said that wrong, private domestic well workshop on Sunday, January 31st, beginning at 2. You can also share your thoughts or concerns or input in both English or in Spanish by talking with us in this meeting here. We will, again, be opening things up in a minute here to have that dialogue. There's also a post-workshop survey. If you used your email to log in today, you can fill that in, or we can mail one directly to you. You can complete an impacted resident survey found on our website. We also plan to distribute these through local community organizations in the coming weeks. The survey will be made available during and after the early action plan submittal. And we look forward to this survey to really give us information about how local residents would like drinking water solutions in their local communities. You can also write us an email at admin@kaweahwater.org, or again, calling 559-325-4463 to leave a voicemail. And one more time, our physical address, if you'd like to write us a letter, is 130 North Garden Street in Visalia at 93291. You can also message us on Facebook or Instagram if you have social media. So now on slide 46, Malka, I'll hand it back to you to go through the agenda.
Great, Sarah. Thanks. This is the time when we want to gather all your remaining questions and comments before we take our break. That we can, and as has been said, we'll share the questions that we've received from the other meeting and respond to those after the break as well. And we will share your questions with the other meeting so that they can respond to them after their break. We do have a question now from Blanca. So the filtration on the existing kiosks are reverse osmosis filters?
Thank you, Blanca. So on the kiosks that I described a minute ago, both those kiosks are connected to water systems where drinking water already meets all federal and state standards. So no, there is not a reverse osmosis filter on the kiosks. There is a filter to take out sand and other particulates. And in some cases, there is a UV filter to make sure that no bacteria growth is developed within the kiosk itself. But there's not a need for reverse osmosis because the kiosk itself is connected to a public water system or a well in the case of Okieville that does meet drinking water standards.
So if there's if you're going to put a kiosk in a community, for example, that doesn't have safe water, you would look for a groundwater well that would meet those standards or connect it to a nearby clean water system?
I think that's a great question. We've talked about that. And you know, Donald's on the line here too, and he's been the engineer on some of these projects. But I think that what we're hearing from other state regulators or Division of Drinking Water is that wouldn't be a preferred option, that you wouldn't put a kiosk at a community, for example, Lemon Cove, where the water isn't safe to drink. You would probably work with the communities nearby to have a kiosk available where water already meets the standard.
Yeah, this is Donald. You know, just to add to that, and Blanca, that's a great question. Now, if a community has high nitrate water, and the quickest and easiest way to get a large volume of water available would be a kiosk that does have reverse osmosis, then that could also be a possibility in order to get it done quickly. But, you know, all of those are options, and this is one of those options. Great question.
The kiosks are capable of reverse osmosis, but there has not yet been one installed. I think the Division of Drinking Water would have a lot of questions about that process and require additional testing. I think it would depend on the local residents, you know?
Like if they would want that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. If we heard from local residents in Lemon Cove that they preferred a kiosk, then we would, you know, look at that and see if it's feasible and if the Division of Drinking Water would approve something like that.
Is it possible? The church here has reverse osmosis, and it's terribly slow. We cannot get the volume out enough for the residents who who need good drinking water. It's also, we're a severely disadvantaged area, so reverse osmosis individual houses is probably out of the question because of cost.
Thank you, George. Yeah, I'd like to talk with you more about the church, and, and Donald might have thoughts on how we could develop something that would be more efficient on reverse osmosis. For Lemon Cove, we have a meeting scheduled for Tuesday where we'd like to talk more specifically about Lemon Cove and Joaquina. We have identified those as the existing systems which don't meet the nitrate standard and are currently out of compliance. So on Tuesday, we have a lot of time set aside to talk specifically about the unique situations in those communities.
This is Donald again. Real quick, reverse osmosis kiosk. I mean, most of the commercial vending machines you see have reverse osmosis. One of the things they do with regards to capacity is they have a larger tank for storage. So the RO system may be operating 24/7 to fill that reservoir. And then as people come and use it, then it fills it up. So it may be more of a question of the reservoir or the storage tank more so than the capacity or speed of the system itself. And again, very complicated, hard to know what is, as Sarah said, what is best for which community. And all of those things are going to be looked at.
Any other questions? Just feel free just to shout them out. Okay. We'll have more time to discuss after the break, but I wanted to give you all a break so that you can stretch, get up, rest your eyes. So we're going to take a 10-minute break. It'll give us an opportunity to see if any questions have been asked in the other meeting that we can share with you after the break, and we will also share the question that came up earlier. We said we'd share after the break. So I want to remind you, we're going to be closing the slideshow after the break. So we put the slide back up on how to make your voice heard. And if there's, please feel free to take down any of that information for future reference. That information is also on the website. And I wanted to say that this meeting is being recorded and will also be on the website, and we will have a meeting summary as well. I hope you guys had a good break. We took the opportunity to review the questions that were asked in this meeting and the other meeting. And so we're going to, just going to ask Sarah those questions so that you get the benefit of hearing all of the questions and all the responses.
Thank you, Malka. I appreciate that. I think everyone has seen this screen, so I'm going to stop sharing, and so the video is larger for those that want to have a conversation and are on the computer. Thank you for waiting through the break. It gave us a chance to catch up on what's happening in the other meeting and pull together those questions for discussion here as well. And also wanted to share that the questions and conversation in this meeting is also being relayed to the other meeting. So both meetings will have equal exchange of information. So one question happening in the Spanish meeting has been paraphrased, and I think, Malka, should I just kind of read it directly? Is that how we want to do this?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
So there was a question and comment that said many wells are drying up and the drought is still happening and families don't have access to water. And we haven't had enough precipitation. And what can we do to promote ways and methods to alleviate lack of precipitation? Also, I've noticed others overusing water while residents are metering. I think that we've missed a word there, maybe farms. Trees are also being removed. What can we do to alleviate the lack of precipitation and access at a regional level? So this is a critical concern and an important question. I don't have an answer about what to do regarding lack of precipitation, other than pray and hope for more. You know, we are also dependent on our surface water supplies. Regarding access to drinking water and issues for families that don't have water is a significant problem, one that I've faced personally, and it is really challenging when your well goes dry or has significant issues due to drought. As some of you know, the California legislature enacted the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act, which is targeted towards addressing issues of sustainable groundwater and management within each basin. The Kaweah Water Foundation, we are coordinating with local groundwater sustainability agencies because there is an overlap between groundwater quality and the quantity that they're managing. It's obviously a significant challenge, one that will take a long time to bring into a sustainable management approach, but we are definitely coordinating to make sure that as they are managing groundwater supplies, that the projects can complement each other. But you know, unfortunately, it's a little bit outside of the scope of this project and this foundation. But we certainly recognize that it is a huge undertaking and really is affecting local families. The next question that we saw was, or heard, was how safe is Visalia's drinking water without having to purchase bottled water or go to Farmersville? My family members from LA have questioned why we don't have a filter. So the answer is that that Visalia and many other communities, the water from the tap is safe to drink and does meet all drinking water standards, including those for nitrates. Some people may not like the taste or the flavor due to other treatment, and so that might be why some families choose to have some kind of filter within their homes. But for many of our communities, the water is safe to drink. As I mentioned earlier, that both Joaquina and Lemon Cove do not meet drinking water standards for nitrate right now. Some of our local communities have issues with other contaminants, not nitrate. Again, the foundation is focused on nitrates. And so for Visalia and Farmersville and Exeter, the water at the tap is safe to drink. I'm looking to see if there's been any other questions from the other meeting, and I don't hear any. So Malka, I think I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, thank you. Sarah, can you show the last slide?
Mm-hmm. I will. Just give me a minute to get back there.
No problem.
So, here we go. Okay. There we go. Can you see slide 48?
Yes, thank you. We wanted to just thank you for your participation. Your questions, your thoughts are really important to us. And so we have a call to action for you as well. Sarah told you about our upcoming meetings. We would love you, those of you who are on the call today, to invite 2 people to go to one of those workshops. either for community water system users or for domestic well users. And the dates are January 19th for the community water system users and January 31st for the domestic well users. That information is also on the website. And as Sarah said, there are other ways that people can give their feedback or ask their questions. They can call the voicemail, which is 559-325-4463. They can fill out a survey, which is available on the website, www.kaweahwater.org. And they can also send an email to admin@kaweahwater.org. Also, if any of you are interested in making a presentation similar to the one that was made today, we are happy to work with you to do that if that's easier for people who you interact with so they don't have to come to a different meeting. I just wanted to open the floor at this time to just allow some informal discussion. If you want to hang around, we're going to close the formal part of the meeting. But again, please feel free to stay on and unmute yourselves. And George, that would be *6 for your telephone.
Yes, I would appreciate if we could get copies of these slides too. Some of them seem very interesting.
Yes, George, happy to do that. I think we're going to print out several and leave them in the post office there in Lemon Cove and in Exeter. And I'm glad that you spoke up because I did answer your question and I didn't answer it here. So let me go back to that real quick. I apologize. So George, you had asked earlier about ongoing research and the status to get rid of nitrates. And so I wanted to talk about that as well. So nitrates that are already concentrated within the aquifer, yes, are very, very difficult to get rid of. And so current technology doesn't really have a great approach to deal with nitrates below the surface. There are existing programs and regulations to work with agriculture and animal operations to limit the amount of nitrogen or nitrates that could sink into groundwater and to work with farmers to account for nitrate that's already available in the groundwater as they fertilize their crops. So that's the current approach, is to limit any additional contamination to use what's currently available in groundwater supplies.
Any follow-up questions or new questions?
Well, one thing I can guarantee, these farmers are not going to stop throwing nitrogen into the ground. It's their livelihood.
You're right. They're going to keep using nitrogen. There are some important programs moving forward to work with farmers to educate them and to hold them accountable for how much nitrogen they're using. And so
you talk to them and they say, "Oh no, we only use exactly what our trees can stand." But you know that they're doubling that amount.
I don't know if I do know that, but I think, moving forward, we have to be clear with farmers and others to make sure that they understand the importance of our groundwater aquifer and the impacts to it. Yeah.
I wanted to add that that your questions and comments will also be collected and for the Kaweah Water Foundation, and the foundation will endeavor to include the feedback in the early action plan development and implementation. So thank you again for that.
Yeah, we would we'd like to stick around and hang out, if you will, you know, and have any kind of discussion, you know, after we close this meeting. Recognize that typically after you have a public, you hang out and you talk with people after. So we'd like to do our best to replicate that here, the best that we can. But I really appreciate you spending your Saturday with us. This is an important project, and it is something that we're trying to be really thoughtful about as we engage with local residents and our own communities. And so just appreciate you all participating and spending your time, and do really ask that if you can, you invite people to join on the 19th and the 31st, and also to get feedback to us. We're noticing these things where we can think of and where we can get out to people, but there's a lot of people staying home right now. So you all can use your own networks of friends and relationships, the work that we're trying to do here. So again, thank you all so much, and hope that you will let us know that you want to talk about. Thank you.